Hi, my name is Junior and I'm an instructor here for Easy Wheels Driving School. This video is to show you how to conduct the outside inspection for your exam at the DMV. These changes have come this month in July 10th was when they first started, and this video will show you how to proceed and pass your test in order for you to require your CDL Class A in this case. So after you do the inside and you do an external light check, which is already considered a point for the test, you will come outside and you will do certain things in order for you to continue to get the points required to pass. They allow you to have a checklist like so. You're allowed to bring this with you. What you're not allowed to have is any markers on it. Okay, so when you bring it to the DMV with you to take your test, it has to be a clean sheet of paper like so. You're allowed to mark it as you go along during the test, but it cannot have any markers prior. So if you go down the list and you see front of the vehicle area, you'll see that it has the lenses. So in this scenario here, we have our lenses, that they're clear, they're not cracked or damaged in any way, they're secure. Our clearance lights are all proper color amber. The lenses are not cracked or damaged and secure. And same here again, the headlights on this side, the lenses are clear, color clear, not cracked or damaged in any way, and so on. Then the next procedure would be, it says fluid levels. So you go and you will unlock the hood on both ends. And then in order for you not to hurt yourself, you put your foot on the bumper and you pull back. It looks kind of heavy, but it's actually extremely light. Just take your time so it doesn't slam. And then you walk over to the side. And you're going to identify the components, okay? Now, opening up the hood is kind of required. If you do forget to do it and you decide to explain correctly and point at the general direction, they might accept it, but it's more better always just to open it up. It makes it easier for yourself because you can see the components. And some examiners actually might require it. It's just like an optional thing. I've heard some say that they will, some won't, but I think for the sake of your test, you should always open it. It is not going to do any harm. So if we're going to do the fluids first, where it says all fluid levels, we'll start with the coolant reservoir. So my coolant reservoir is securely mounted. I see that it's dry, so no signs of any cracks or leaking. All the hoses that connect to and from it are not rip cut or frayed. And it's currently hot, so I wouldn't open it because it might, overflow. Now, that being said, just because I explained it in that way and I pointed, that is enough. You don't have to do any much more than that. And that's how the whole test will be. You're just going to explain in detail what you're looking for and just have to point pretty much in that area. If you can see it, then point directly at it. But if you're having trouble to see it, as long as you're pointing exactly where more or less it'll be and you explain it in detail, you'll be fine. So continuing on from there, we have the power steering reservoir, which is currently right here. Is at max or adequate level. It's not leaking, not cracked, not damaged. All the hoses that are connected to it are not rip cut or frayed. They're not leaking, and they have their clamps. Then you have your dipstick over here. So if I was to check my dipstick, I would pull it out, wipe it clean, reinsert it, and make sure it's above the ad line that will be required. From there, I could also check my air leaks on my air compressor by just listening and saying I don't have any air leaks coming from the air compressor. All the hoses and lines that connect to it, they're not ripped or torn, or they're sealed correctly where it's not leaking, or I don't hear any audible leaks. So those will be mostly all the leaks you're looking for. You have the checklist where it says fluid levels. Then you can go with fluid levels and air leaks, which I actually can put it all together in one sum right there. And then the next thing you go is for steering system. So the steering system, you probably will start from the power steering reservoir, right? So my power steering reservoir is securely mounted. I don't see anything wrong with it, no kinds of leaks and so on. And that hose right there connects to the next component for the power steering is the power steering gearbox. My power steering gearbox is not missing any parts. It's securely mounted to the frame. All the nuts and bolts are present. It's gear driven, okay? It has no belt. And all the hoses that connect to it are also not rip cut or frayed or leaking. The next piece that connects to the steering is called the pitman arm. So my pitman arm is a solid piece of metal. So you want to use no bends, no dents, no welding, no excessive rust. It has its upper connection secure with the mounting bolts. There's no signs of rust trails on those. And on the bottom connection, it has a castle nut with a cotter key in it, or cotter pin, where it's nice and secure. Going along, we're doing the steering. The next piece will be the drag link. So you got the pitman arm and the drag link. The drag link There's no bends, no dents, no welding, no excessive rust. Front connection is secure with a castle nut and a cotter key, and so is the rear. So it's pretty much very repetitive when it comes to metal components. Finally, if you look towards the back, you'll see that you got the pivot arm, the drag link, and you have a steering knuckle. The steering knuckle, again, very repetitive. No bends, no dents, no welding, no rust. Has a castle nut and cotter key. Another component for the steering is called the tie rod. The tie rod is connects on both sides. It's that skinny long bar over there. You just got to point in that direction. Again, repeat the same. No bends, no dents, no welding, no rust. And it has this castle nut and cotter key. That will conclude all the steering components that are required for that part of the test. Going along the list, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to follow the list, because this is only what you need to pass. These little boxes indicate points. The next will be for the steering axle, we're going to do the tires. So we'll go to the tires, and we'll say these tires are no recaps. These are original, because they have to be original in the front. No bubbles. There's no cuts on the sidewall. They must be 4/32 of groove. You will have to use a measuring gauge to make sure that it's the proper thread. You have to explain that as well. So you don't have to bring the measuring gauge, you just have to say it. It has to be at least 100 pounds of pressure, and you would say I would use a pressure gauge and stick it in the air stem to make sure it has at least 100 pounds of pressure. That is the tire. Continuing on, we go to the rim. So the rim, no bends, no dents, no welding, no excessive rust, because it's solid metal. Okay. The next thing would be lug nuts. My lug nuts are all present. There's no rust trails or shiny metals that will indicate that they're loose. You will also add on to the axle nuts. No rust trails or shiny metals, all present. No rust trails or shiny metal that will indicate looseness, and they're all present. I would probably just mention the axle seal here as well, since I'm here. It has no signs of leaks, no signs of damages. Continuing on. Now it says do springs and airbags and shocks. So in this case, we're doing the front, right? That's the suspension. We're going to do the leaf springs, all right? So leaf springs, they're both present. They're not scissored. They're not missing. They're not shifted. They're securely mounted. They're not cracked. I don't want to say cracked too much. I want to say no bends, no dents, no welding, no rust. And it's securely mounted with the front mount. The front mount, again, no bends, no dents, no welding, no rust, because it's solid metal and it's securely mounted to the frame. All the mounting bolts are present, and the mounting bolts have no rust trail or shiny metals as well. And then in the back of the leaf springs, you're going to have the rear mounts right there, securely mounted to the frame. Like I said, just pointing in the general direction. It's not like you have to actually go there and touch it. As long as you're pointing to where it is and you say the right things, which is no bends, dents, welding, or rust, securely mounted to the leaf springs on the bottom with the mounting bolts, and securely mounted to the frame with the mounting bolts as well. No signs of rust or shiny metals. You will get the point that you're looking for on this checklist here. Okay. So that concludes. And then it also says shock. So we have a shock absorber right here. Shock absorber is not leaking any hydraulic fluids. It's securely mounted to the leaf springs on the bottom with the mounting bolts, and on the upper connection, securely mounted to the frame. That should check off that box right there. It says next to do brake lines and hoses and leaks. So we're going to go here. You're going to see this line right here. This line connects to the brake chamber. This brake line has no rips or tears. I don't hear any audible leaks coming from the brake line. It's securely mounted to the brake chamber. The brake chamber is not missing any components, any parts. It has all those nuts and bolts. I don't hear any air leaks coming from the brake chamber as well. Push rod and slack adjuster, because you must check any brake contamination. So we're going to do the whole brake system. So push rod and slack adjuster, not missing any parts. If I was to check it, I would release the brakes, make sure it doesn't have an inch of play. Inside, you have a brake lining with a drum that connects to the drum, and you want to make sure there's no debris, there's no oil or any type of liquid in between, or they were contaminated from not having friction and stopping correctly. As well, the brake lining should have at least 1/4 of an inch material, and it should like not have any cracks inside of it or any type of damage. And that actually will conclude the whole steering axle. When you're done with that, then you will go to the side of the truck, and that's what it says right here currently, side of the vehicle. So we're going to walk along the side of the vehicle. We're going to just go by the checklist. It says to check lenses and reflectors. So this is a lens right here. We have a side marker. It's proper color amber. It's not cracked or damaged. It's in place. You look on the side. You make sure if you see any other lights, maybe in the rear. We have, in this truck particularly, we only have that one marker. So that'll be fine. If you do have any reflectors or any additional lights, you want to point them out. You want to check the lenses, and you want to check the reflectors. Traffic monitoring devices. Traffic monitoring devices. So we've got our mirrors and our convex mirrors. You want to mention that they're not cracked or damaged. They're securely mounted in any way. If you have anything additional for checking the traffic besides your mirrors. You know, sometimes you have an additional mirror on top. You mentioned that as well, depending on the vehicle you're taking the test in. Next will be battery. So the battery is right here. You just have to pretty much open up this little compartment, and you would say, if I was to check the battery, I would unlock it, open it up, make sure I see that there's no corrosion or any battery acid dripping, that they're not, the wires that are connected are not ripped or torn or you know, in any way damaged, and they're sealed correctly. And then you would just say, I would lock it back up, and you're done checking the battery. It's very simple. You don't have to physically open it. You just have to explain like I did there. Now, fuel tank is next. So our fuel tank, I don't see any leaks. It's dry, the whole tank. I don't see any holes. The fuel cap is present. If I was to check it, I would open it, make sure it has a chain with a rubber seal inside of it. The straps are securely mounted to the frame. They're not cut or ripped in any way. The gas lines are also sealed. I don't see any air. Excuse me. I don't see any leaks. They're dry. They're not ripped, cut, or frayed in any way, and they're secure. And then you will go also, since this has a DEF tank, you can mention it. You would say my DEF tank as well is not leaking. I don't see any. It's dry. I don't see any signs of damage or any holes. It has also its cap. All the lines are sealed correctly. I don't see no rips or tears or any type of leaking. It's dry. Done with the fuel tanks. At the bottom it says frames. So we will go to the frame of the truck, on the side of the truck in the rear. My frame is not bent, dent, or welded. It's secure. It's solid metal. So it's pretty simple. No excessive rust, and you're pretty much done with that. That's another point. Now, combination vehicles only. So this is definitely a combination vehicle. We have a fifth wheel. So we're going to start with our lines from both ends. Starting from the side of the truck, I'm going to say my electrical wire is in the lock position. It looks like it's fully in. If I was to check it, I would pull it out, make sure nothing is stuck inside the prongs. It depends on not damaged or bent. And you would say the color that it is. So in this case, my electrical wire is green. Then I have my service line, which is blue. That's sealed correctly. That's sealed. I don't hear any air leaks, any audible leaks coming from it. No ripped tear, no cuts, no frays. I don't hear any leaks. And the emergency line is the red one. Sealed correctly. I don't hear any audible leaks, no rip cuts or frays. Follow the lines through. They're not touching any truck part. They're secure. They're not tangled. These are my glide handles. I would say if I was to check them, I would open it, make sure that the O-ring or the rubber seals are present, not like bent or cut, and then I would put them back nice and even so that I don't hear any audible leaks. I would repeat the same thing for the service line. I would say that I would check the glide handles by opening it, make sure it's not missing the O-ring, that it's not bent or in a way damaged where it would leak any air, and then I would say I would connect it back nice and even where it wouldn't leak any air. And finally, again, the electrical wire on this end must be plugged in all the way. The prongs cannot be have anything in between inside of them, and the pins cannot be damaged or bent in any way, because that would affect the lights of the trailer to function. Okay, done with that. Now we're gonna go. We're still doing the coupling. We're still doing the combination. That's the first part. Now we're gonna actually go to the fifth wheel itself over here. So we're gonna start with the apron, right? The apron has no holes. There's no gap or space between the apron and the fifth wheel itself with the skid plate. My skid plate is a solid metal, so no bends, no dents, no welding, no rust, and it's securely mounted on top of the platform. My platform is not missing any parts. All the bolts and nuts are present and has a locking pin with a cotter key in it. The mounting bolts are connected to the frame. There's no rust or shiny metals that would indicate that they're loose. And my release arm is in the full lock position, which means it's in. If it was out, it would be released. Now, you don't have to go underneath the trailer, but you want to point in the general direction, because you got to always think safety, safety, safety. You don't want to get yourself in a position where something can happen. Like if you're coming out the vehicle, you want to do the 3-point contact, and in this scenario, you never really want to go underneath. So I'm just going to crouch down and point towards the direction over there, where I would say my kingpin has its lock jaws around the kingpin, so it's secure. My kingpin is not bent, dent, or welded or damaged in any way. I have no space. It's well greased. It's well lubricated. All the components are there, none are missing. All the mounting bolts are present. They connect from the platform to the frame, and there are no rust trail or shiny metals. And that will conclude the fifth wheel compartment. That should be more than enough. At some point, if you have enough points, they might stop the test early. Once you reach a certain amount of points, I believe it's 22 is what you need. But if they haven't stopped you, that means that maybe you haven't reached the point. So you're just going to continue on until you get to the back. I also want to mention that if you go to the rear of the trailer, right, and you realize, oh wait, I forgot to mention a component, a steering component, or a fluid level, you just return back because you haven't finished the test yet, and you tell them the part that you forgot. But you won't be able to make up for it if you start talking about this tire in the back or this tire here. Everything has to be done with the front steering axle, like it says here. So if this is mentioning the front steering axle, you must focus on that particular axle only. So if you forget something, don't get nervous. Just go right back and then just tell them the parts you missed, and they'll accept it. Okay. So continuing on, now that we finished with the combination of the vehicle, we're going to go to the trailer. It says trailer only. So we're going to talk about the landing gear and the clearance. So what it means about clearance is you want to make sure that when your truck is turning, that the landing gear does not hit the actual truck. And then also you want to make sure that the clearance on the landing gear is that it's always fully raised while you're driving. So in this case, it is fully raised. You will explain how it operates. You would say, if I wanted to operate it for whatever reason, I take the crank handle and I would crank it all the way until it touches the ground fully. That's how. And then if I wanted to raise it, I would crank it by other way correctly, all the way up until it's fully raised. And you have to make sure that the crank handle itself is latched, is not hanging. So that's just, they want to make sure that you know how to operate the landing gear, and then it has proper clearance, and it's securely mounted to the frame. And the support frame for the landing gear is no bent, dents, or welding because it's solid metal. You can add all of that just so you can get that point. Okay. Now reflector tape, which is this right here, it's a DOT tape, right? You want to say that it's more than 50% of the trailer is proper color, white and red. You also have some more reflectors here, so you want to mention all your reflectors, like so. You want to say this reflector is amber, this is yellow, and they're in place, and the lens is not cracked or damaged. We're going to point out all of our clearance lights on the trailer. So we have one there, proper color amber, not cracked or damaged. We have a side marker down here as well. My side marker here, my lens is not cracked or damaged, proper color amber, and the top one is also not cracked or damaged, proper color amber. Now, note, from up to the rear, from the middle forward, is always going to be amber. That's a must. But once you get to the rear, you'll notice that the color is red. So make sure you don't get confused and you say amber to this. This will always be red. So my rear clearance light is proper color red. The lenses are not cracked or damaged. It's in place. My reflectors also, lenses are proper color red. They're not cracked or damaged and in place as well. It says it clear as day. It says to do the landing gear and the reflector tape, and then the rear of the trailer, lenses and reflectors. So we just did all the lenses and reflectors. Now we're going to the very far back, and all we got to do now is again keep pointing out our lenses and reflectors. So we got our outside, our signal lights, proper color red, not cracked or damaged. You can actually, if you choose to have them working and on, you can. Before you come out the truck, you could have just had turned them on. With your headlights, it's fine, doesn't really matter much, but you would say that the lenses are not cracked or damaged, proper color red, present. Same for the brake lights. My brake lights are proper color red, lenses are not cracked or damaged and in place. Reflectors, proper color red, not cracked or damaged and in place. And my DOT tape is present, it's proper color red and white. My top clearance lights are all proper color red, the lenses are not cracked or damaged in any way. And if you look at the list, you should be done by then. You should have achieved the points that you're looking for. It's a pretty simple test. I guess, they have decided to focus more on the maneuvers, which is, I think it's the proper way, because this is for safety. You just want to do a little quick pre-trip before you go on the road. If you do see something wrong, you wouldn't take the vehicle on the road. But alongside of that, the test is very focused now on the maneuvers and the driving, which is more realistic. And we all agree that that's more proper. So that being said, I hope this video helps all you guys. I hope you guys decide to come see us. We're the #1 school here in New Jersey. We're Easy Wheels. We do one-on-one training. We tailor to your needs. We're open 7 days a week. Look us up. We're throughout the whole state from north to south, and we're here for you guys. This part of the test. Hopefully, us here at Easy Wheels help you pass this part, and then we would like to help you with the rest to make you start your new career. And I hope to see you guys all soon. Take care. And on behalf of myself, I wish you the best.